Right. So in our previous session, we have seen some basic locators from Selenium, like we have used ID, and now we have seen like how to use name and then link text, partial link text. Then also we have seen different combinations in CSS selector. And today we are going to see how to use XPath and how we can locate the elements by using XPath. Okay, and this is another very important topic, and most of the times while identifying the elements or locating the elements we use XPath. Okay, so there are a lot of advantages we have by using XPath, and we can also locate any kind of element by using XPath. And sometimes we may not able to locate element by using a normal locators like id name or link text or other locators, but by using XPath, we can definitely locate an element and wherever it is on the web page. And sometimes if you don't find any attributes for the element, still you can find the element by using XPath. Okay. So today we are going to discuss more about XPath, or like what is XPath, what are the different types of XPath, and how we can capture the XPath or how we can write the XPath. And also we are going to see what are the different options or functions available in XPath. Okay, so it is little huge topic, guys, so please listen carefully. Now first of all, let us start with what is an XPath. What is an XPath? So let me just write some definitions here, what exactly XPath means. XPath is defined as an XML path. It is basically shortcut of XML path. So we can say XML path is a shortcut we can call as a XPath. And it is a syntax or a language for finding any element on the web page using XML path expression. So basically XPath is a language which is derived from XML, and it is a syntax or a language for finding any element on the web page using XML path. So here the XML path is most important thing. So we are going to write a path of the element, and simply we can say XPath is representing an address of the element. So wherever you can see some element on the web page, every element is having certain address. If you can see some element, there should be some address for that element. So what is an address means it is a location where exactly the path, where exactly it is present on the web page. And XPath is representing the address of the element. So it is a basically syntax by which we can locate the element by writing XML path. And XPath is used to find the location of the element. Location in the sense, again, this is the address of the element on the web page using HTML DOM structure. So here we need to understand what exactly HTML DOM structure. So DOM is nothing but document object model. So XPath is used to find the location of any element on the web page using HTML DOM structure. So what exactly HTML DOM structure means? Sometimes, right? So when you open any web page, let's say I'm opening some web page. Let's say uh, I have some small web page which is open here. Suppose if I want to inspect any element, or if you want to see this, let's say right click on inspect, and which will give you some kind of HTML code here, right? So this is basically called as a DOM structure page, and all the HTML hierarchy, all the tags will be aligned in the form of DOM structure. So let me just show you a small presentation here. So if I look at this small example here, this is a HTML code of the web page, and internally the browser will create a DOM structure like this. The same HTML will be aligned in the form of nodes. So for example, HTML, and inside the header tag, closing tag, and again body tag, opening tag, and closing tag. Inside the body we have different elements, button, input, P, and HTML is closed here. The same HTML structure is representing in the different view. So this is, in this we can see only nodes like HTML inside this header tag, then body tag, and inside the body tag there are multiple nodes we have. So this is basically called as a document object model. And how we can define this? DOM is an API interface provided by the browser itself, and when a web page is loaded, the browser automatically creates a DOM of the web page, and whatever XPath we are going to use, that will works on this DOM structure. And XPath is basically a path. Path is nothing but a location. So wherever the element is present on the web page, we can just try to navigate till that element found on the web page or on the DOM. Okay, so if that element is not present on the DOM, then it will give you an error. Otherwise, it can find. And when the DOM is created, as soon as you open the page, web page, at the time of loading the page, this DOM view is automatically created by the browser. So DOM is basically an API interface provided by the browser itself, and every browser is having this API internally, and that will generate this DOM structure at the time of page loading. And XPath exactly works in this location, and this is a render view of this particular HTML view. So this is a UI, and for this UI, this is HTML code, and then this is a DOM view structure. And XPath is always works in the DOM view or DOM structure. Okay, remember this. So that is all about DOM. So DOM is document object model. So which is basically created by the browser itself at the time of page loading. And XPath can be used to navigate through elements and attributes in DOM. So in the DOM, whatever the elements are available, we can just navigate throughout the elements. So whichever element we have in the DOM, we can find that element. Okay, so this is the basic information is what is XPath, and simply say XPath is an address of an element. XPath is an address of element. So for example, let me just show you something else. Let's say, let me open this page. And what is an address? What is an XPath here? So for example, let us say I have small logo is here, right? So when I try to inspect this logo, and here in DOM, this is basically DOM. So here you can see IMG, and this line is representing this particular logo on the web page, right? So if I just locate this element, so where exactly this tag is present inside this tag, before this tag, there are so many tags are there inside HTML, header and body. So if I expand this body, and again we have a div tag. Inside the div tag, again we have a multiple div tags. And inside this div tag, and if you expand, there are so many div tags are there. In the third div tag, there is one more div tag, and here I can find IMG. So if I write something like each and every tag one after another till we reach that element, that is exactly XPath of the element. Okay, that's exactly XPath of the element. So for example, select this node and select this line and right click and just copy, and you can just see here there are two options available: copy XPath, copy full XPath. So there are two kinds of XPath. I will discuss them. First, let me just say copy full XPath. When I copy this full XPath, now observe this, how it will be, and copy it here. See this is exactly XPath. So here we find that element. IMG is a node, and where we can find the element. So to reach this till this element, we have to navigate through each and every node. HTML, inside this body node, inside this there are multiple div tags are there, but we have to go to inside first div tag. So one is representing the index. So inside the body, if I have a multiple div tag, suppose let us say there are two div tags, and I want to find element in the first div tag, so I need to specify the number. Then it will navigate to the first div tag, and then inside this there is one more div tag. Inside this there is third div tag. Inside this there is first div tag, and here I can find the element. So this is exactly XPath of the element. And if you just check whether this XPath is locating the element or not, what I can do is you can just open the search, Control F, and here you can paste that XPath. So now we can just locate here. When I say enter, this is highlighting the logo, as well as it is highlighting the line in the HTML. So this is simple example of the XPath. Okay, so let me just write it here. So here this is basically address of the element. So to find that element, we have to write each and every node. We need to navigate through each and every node till we find the element here. Okay, so this is called as XPath, and XPath works on the DOM. So document object model is basically representation of all the nodes from the HTML. Okay, and now let us see what are the types of XPaths. Types of XPath. So what are the different types of XPath? So there are two kinds of XPath we have. There are two kinds of XPath we have. One is Absolute Xpath. Let me write it over here. Absolute Xpath. And the second one is Relative Xpath. Relative XPath. So Absolute XPath is also called as full XPath, and Relative XPath is also called as partial XPath. So these are the two kinds of XPaths we have: Absolute XPath and Relative XPath. So now let us see what is the difference between Absolute XPath and Relative XPath. Now look at here. Let me just go to this page. And when I inspecting this element, right? So when I inspecting this element, this is a HTML code which is created. And when I use this option, copy full XPath, I got this one. So this is a full XPath, Absolute XPath. And now I'll say right click on the element, inspect, and I'm again right click on the text here, HTML, and copy. And I'm just saying copy XPath, only copy XPath. So now here, look at here, this is giving a different XPath. So here, this is XPath and this is also an XPath. And the first one is Absolute XPath, or it is a full XPath. And the second one is a Relative XPath or a partial XPath. So these are the two types of XPaths, guys. So this is an example of Absolute XPath. And this is the example of the Relative XPath. I'll tell you what exactly difference means, what is the difference and how we can write these XPaths. So in the Absolute XPath and the Relative XPath. So now we need to understand what exactly difference between this Absolute XPath and Relative XPath. So in the Absolute XPath, we need to navigate through each and every node till that element found in that particular node. So to reach image, so we have to navigate from the root to tag. So if I just look at here, HTML is a starting point, right? So this is called as a root node. And inside this root node, there are multiple nodes: header node, body, divs, and there are different nodes. Each line in this DOM is called as a node. And there are different nodes are available. So in the Absolute XPath, we have to navigate each and every node till we find that element. And here we exactly find that element. But in case of Relative XPath, we don't need to navigate to each and every node like this. So Relative XPath will work based on certain attribute and value and certain property. So for example, the same logo element, there is an ID attribute is available. So in the Relative XPath, what happens is slash slash is a starting point. So slash slash is representing the entire DOM structure. And wherever this ID find that in the DOM, it will directly jump to that element and it will find that element. So this is an XPath and slash img node. So here it is exactly finding the element. So what is basically difference between Absolute and Relative XPath is, in Absolute XPath, we need to navigate each and every node till we find that element. Whereas in the Relative XPath, based on the attribute, it will directly jump to that element. It will not navigate throughout the nodes. So it will directly jump to that element on the DOM structure and it will find the element. So that is one difference between Absolute and Relative XPath. And Absolute XPath will start from the root node, which is HTML, whereas the Relative XPath will directly start from the element. So here slash slash representing the whole DOM structure. Inside the DOM structure, wherever this attribute is find in DOM, so from where it will start fetching the element. So that is the basic difference. So Absolute XPath will start from the root node, whereas Relative XPath will directly jump to that element. And Absolute XPath will start from single slash, whereas Relative XPath is always start with the double forward slash. Okay, so double forward slash. And most of the times Absolute XPath is very lengthy and Relative XPath is little bit shorter than Absolute XPath. Okay, so these are the main differences between Absolute Xpath and Relative Xpath. So the first difference is in Absolute Xpath, we have to navigate each and every node till we find the element. Whereas in the Relative Xpath, it will directly jump to that element and find that element. That's the first difference. The second difference is Absolute Xpath is start with the single slash, whereas Relative Xpath is always start with the double slash. Third difference, in Absolute Xpath, we don't use any attributes. We use only nodes or tag names. In the Relative Xpath, we use some attributes. We can use certain attributes and values. Okay, so these are the three differences between Absolute Xpath and the Relative Xpath. So difference between Absolute and Relative Xpaths. Okay, so the first difference, let me write a small note here, then you can understand. So the first difference, Absolute Xpath start from root node, whereas Relative Xpath directly jump to element on DOM. Okay, and the second difference is Absolute Xpath start with single slash, and whereas Relative Xpath start with double slash. That's the second difference. And the third difference is in Absolute Xpath, we use only the tags or nodes. We use only tags or nodes. Okay, and then whereas in Relative Xpath, we use attributes. Okay, so these are the basic differences between Absolute Xpath and Relative Xpath. So now we will see a few more examples. So how to capture XPath. So we have seen the differences between Absolute Xpath and Relative Xpath. Now we will see the syntactical differences. So if you just look at the syntax of Absolute Xpath and Relative Xpath, in Absolute Xpath, every node we have to specify by separating slash until we reach that element. In the Relative Xpath, we have to write a simple syntax. So even Relative Xpath, we can generate or we can automatically write our own XPath also. So most of the time we can also write our Relative Xpath. So if you know the syntax of the Relative Xpath, we can easily write our XPath. But only thing is we need to know the syntax. That's it. Okay. So let me just show you the syntax of Relative Xpath. Syntax of Relative Xpath. So the syntax is, first we need to start with the double slash, and then here we have to specify the tag name, and inside the bracket here @attribute equal to the value of the attribute we have to specify in the single quote or double quote. So this is a syntax which we have to use to write our Relative Xpath. So // here we have to say tag name of the element and some attribute and value of the element, and this is the XPath. And by using this syntax, we can write any XPath. So for example, let us say I want to write an XPath for the username text box. So what I can do is, let's inspect this element, right? So now you can see this is a HTML line which is highlighted here, and this is a just label, and this is the actual input tag. So this is a HTML line which is highlighting the username text box. Now by using this, how we can write an XPath? So directly here itself, we can write our own XPath. In the search box itself, we can directly write our own XPath. So what is the syntax of XPath? Relative Xpath, we need to start with the //. And what is the tag name of this element? Input is my tag name. So input, in the square bracket, we have to specify the attributes of the element. So attributes of the element. And what are the attributes of the element we have? Inspect one more time. And here, so name equal to text username, ID equal to text username is there. So we can use any of the attributes. So here we have to use along with the @ and a name equal to either double quotation or single quotation, and here you can say the value txt user name. So now when I say enter, this will able to locate the element. So this is exactly syntax which we have to use to write our relative XPath, guys. So if you know the syntax, you can easily write our relative XPath. So this is a very basic relative XPath. So later I will show you what are the different other options are available in the relative XPath. So this is a syntax of writing relative XPath, and this is an example. Okay, so sometimes suppose instead of writing the tag name here, you can simply say star. So star is representing a regular expression, so which will match with all the tag names. So then how it is going to work? So directly it will jump to all the tags in the DOM structure. It will find all the DOM, all the tags, and in all the tags, wherever this attribute is matching, it will go and locate that element directly. Okay, so this is we can use either this is also fine. So instead of tag name, we can also simply say star representing the regular expression, so which is matching with all the tags which are available in the DOM structure. So this is the syntax which you have to use to write our own relative XPath, and we are going to see how we can write various ways of writing relative XPath in few minutes. So this is a very basic syntax how to write our XPath. And suppose there are some plugins are available, some extensions are available for the browsers by which we can automatically capture the XPath. Okay, so what are the options are available? Suppose I just want to generate our XPath. Instead of writing my own XPath, I just want to generate XPath for the elements, and it can be full XPath or it can be relative XPath or whatever. So I want to generate automatically XPath of the element. So for that, we have certain extensions are available for the browser. So now let me show you how to capture. So if you know the syntax, we can directly write our own XPath. And if you don't want to write your own XPath, you can just capture the XPath by using these extensions. So how to capture XPath? And here there are multiple extensions are available. So I'll show you different ways to capture XPath. It's very easy. And most of the time, the first approach is this one. So if I want to locate this element username, I can say right click and inspect. And you can find the HTML line which is highlighted, and then right click on the HTML line, copy, and you can use these two options, copy XPath, copy full XPath. Okay, this is a common thing which is available for every browser. You can also find this inspect option on Firefox as well as Edge browsers. Okay, so you can use these two options to get the XPath of the element. So when I say copy XPath, this will give you the relative XPath. And when I say copy full XPath, which will give you Absolute Xpath. Okay, this is one option we have. So the first option is right click on element, and then inspect, right? Inspect. And after inspecting, you can find the HTML, right? Highlight HTML, and then right click, and then copy XPath. Okay, so this is the one option which is available. So first we need to right click on the element, inspect that element, and on the HTML, we just right click again, copy, and copy XPath or copy full XPath. So these are the two options which are available. So this is the one way we can capture the XPath of the element. And this option is available in every browser. So apart from this, we also have one more option called Crow Path extension. Crow Path extension. So in the previous days, we have some more extensions, especially Firefox like Firebug and Firepath. So nowadays they are not available. So they have deprecated from the Firefox. So now they are no longer available. So the latest extensions are available for the Chrome as well as Firefox browsers. That is called Crow Path extension. So now I'll show you how to use this Crow Path extension, which is very, very useful extension, guys. And I will show you how we can work with this Crow Path extension to capture the XPath. And this extension can be used to write our own XPath, and you can cross check whether your XPath is right or wrong, and it will also automatically generate XPath. So not only XPath, it will use it for CSS also. We can also automatically generate CSS selector for the elements. So now I'll show you how you can use this CrowPath extension while capturing the XPaths. So for that, what you can do is here, and just go to the Google and just type CrowPath extension for Chrome, so which is available for Firefox also. So you can just cross check. So search for CrowPath extension for Chrome, and you will see this one, CrowPath Google Chrome. And when you click on this link, and which is going to the ChromePath web store. Okay, so this is basically called as a CrowPath. Okay, and by default you will see one option called add to Chrome, but I already added to my Chrome, so it is not giving that option for me. So in your case, you can see here add to Chrome button. So once you click on add to Chrome button, which will automatically add it to your Chrome. Okay, so I already click on this add to Chrome, and now we can see a small option which is available here. So this is basically CrowPath element. And if you don't see this CrowPath here, you can just go extensions list and you can find somewhere in the extensions. Okay, and once you added this, then what you can see is when you inspecting this element, okay, so here along with this DOM, you can also see the CSS here in the bottom window, right? And in these tabs, you can find something called CrowPath tab here. Okay, so once you install CrowPath extension, you will get a new tab here. So along with other tabs like computed, event listeners, DOM, properties, accessibility, and then you can see CrowPath. And sometimes you may not see CrowPath. Suppose if your window is very smaller, then you cannot see like this. See this? So in that case, what you can do is you can just click on this arrow mark, and then you can see the CrowPath. Okay, so this is very useful plugin or extension which is available for Chrome as well as Firefox. So now I will show you how we can use this CrowPath to capture XPaths. And then, so what I can do is just drag this window like this, and then click on the CrowPath. So once you click on the CrowPath, then it will show you different options here, right? So here, if you just see this drop down, you can see Relative XPath, Absolute Xpath, and CSS selector. So these are the multiple options which are available. And along with this, by default, it will show you all the locators, guys. That is the main beauty of this CrowPath. And if I just look at here, and as soon as you inspect that element like this, right? As soon as you inspect the element like this, let me inspect once again. Okay, so now I'm inspecting some element. Let's say I'm inspecting the username text box element. Okay, so as soon as I click on the element, this will automatically generate a relative XPath. You can see here. So this is a relative XPath, and sometimes it will also generate Absolute Xpath. And here this is the ID, this is a name, and this is a CSS selector. And you can see Absolute Xpath also generated, and tag name is also generated. So we can use any of these locators in your script to locate this element, to identify this element. So this is a useful feature of CrowPath. So as soon as you inspect this element, it will list out all the locators which are supported by Selenium. So you can use anything here. So relative XPath, you can use ID, you can use name, CSS selector, Absolute XPath, tag name. So whichever you want, you can just use that locator to identify this element. Okay, and apart from this, so by default it will show you something called relative Absolute CSS selector. So what you can do is, suppose I want to verify, I want to write my own XPath here, or I want to verify my XPath is correctly identifying the element or not. So for that, what we can do is we can just specify that XPath in this search box, and then we can locate the element. So for example, let me just take the relative XPath from the drop down, and here I will write my own XPath. Let's say star star, and input is my tag name. Okay, so when I say star star, it's invalid pattern, right? So we have to specify some tag name in the bracket, and I'll specify some attribute. I'll say @ so which is given ID attribute. We can also use name attribute. So @ name equal to, and in that quotation, singular double quotations, and here I can say value. So txt user name, and now press enter. Now it will show you one element is matching. So now one element is matching. So this XPath is exactly identifying the element, or it is highlighting the element. And here the crow path also we can use to check whether our XPath is correctly identifying the element or not. And we can also write our own XPath here. Okay. And if this XPath is matching with one element, it will clearly show you one element is matching. And sometimes your XPath is matching with multiple elements. In that case, it will show you what are the elements it is exactly matching. Okay. So let me just show you some other things. I'll say I'm opening some different web page. And in this particular page, there are so many links are available, right? So what I'm going to do is here, I'm just writing //a. So //a is a representing tag name. So when I press enter, now we can see this is also XPath. So 89 elements are matching. So that means there are 89 anchor tags are available. 89 anchor tags are available. So also you can see here, these are the different tags which is listed out here. Okay. So this is how we can use this crowpath extension to check all the locators. And for example, let me just inspect some element. Okay, let me inspect these partners. Okay, now we can see, just remove this and put selectors, and then it will show you all the locators. So this is our relative XPath and class name and CSS selector and link text, then p-link text and partial link text. P-link text in this is a partial link text, Absolute Xpath and tag name. So this is very, very useful extension, guys. So we can use it to get all the locators, especially for XPath, which is very, very useful. Okay. So we are going to use this very frequently to get the XPath and to write our own XPath, and we can check whether our XPath is correct or not. So all these things we can do in this extension. Okay. So this is one way we can capture XPath by using crowpath extension. And apart from this, we also have one more extension called Selector Hub. Okay, this is actually enhancement of crowpath extension, and both are designed by one developer. He is from India, so which is Sanjay Kumar. He's implemented these two extensions, so crowpath and Selector Hub. Now let me show you Selector Hub. So Selector Hub is also one of the extension from Chrome. So when I say Selector Hub, and there is official website is also available, selectorshub.com. And if I just look at this web page, you can find which is available for almost every browser. So Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Opera. So all browsers are supported. And he's a guy who is implemented this Selector Hub, okay, and as well as crowpath. So he is a author of crowpath as well as Selector Hub. Now he has made a lot of videos on this, and how we can work with the crowpath as well as Selector Hub and all these things. Now I will also show you how to use the Selector Hub, a few options. So let me just go to the web page again. Let's say, so let us open the demo website. Okay, so now let us try to inspect, and before that let me show you how we can install Selector Hub extension. So for that, what you have to do is, so search in the Google Selectors Hub for Chrome. So you can install this for any browsers. So if I just look at here, Selectors Hub for Chrome, so you can just go to extensions, Selectors Hub extension. Okay, so let's click on this link and it will go to extension web store. So Chrome web store, and here you can find Selectors Hub. So you will find add to Chrome button here. Again, I have already installed this plugin, install this extension on my Chrome, so it is not giving here. But in your case, you can find add to Chrome button. So once you click on this add to Chrome, then the Selector Hub extension will be added to your Chrome browser. So how we can see that, as soon as you open the web page, you can find one more icon like this, Selector Hub. And if you don't see the icon here, you can just go to this, and here you can find Selector Hub. And also when I try to inspecting this element, and along with the crow path, you can also see, you can use one extension, guys. So I already installed both extensions. So if you just expand this page a little bit, you can see Selectors Hub here. So once you click on the Selector Hubs, you will see something like this. Okay, and what are all the different options are available. Okay, so basically what is the main intention of using CSS Selector Hub? So here we can use this for writing your own XPaths, CSS selectors, or everything. So the main usage of Selector Hub is it will give you auto suggestions. So it will automatically give you auto suggestions. Okay. So here, when I just say // see this, it will automatically giving the auto suggestion. And I'll say input. Okay, so I'll say input. And when I say here, see this, as soon as I put some bracket, it will give you all the auto suggestions. And whichever element you want to use, you can just select that XPath directly. You don't need to write the complete XPath also. So it will give you auto suggestions like this. And when you select this, automatically it is added, and one element is matching. The HTML also will be shown here, and this will automatically identify the element. And similarly, when I say // img tag, okay, say / and say img. So it is not giving any suggestion for us. So when I click on enter, it is giving a lot of suggestion. IMG is matching with the 5 elements. And say when I say bracket, then it will show you again different suggestions like this. Okay, so this is a usage of selector. So here we can test all the CSS selectors, and also you can test all the XPath. You can write our own XPath and you can test it. Okay, suppose I want to write an XPath for this image. Let's inspect this element. And img is a tag name. So what I can do is I'll say //. So / we have to use, guys. So remember here. So I'll say img. So which is matching with the 5 elements. But we have to specify some attribute for this element. And inside this img, we can pass some attribute. So do we have any attribute? We have only src attribute. Okay, so when I say bracket, and here it will show you. So when I say this, it will automatically locate the element. So this is how we can just use Selector Hub by passing the XPath and CSS selectors. So which will give you auto suggestions, guys. It will list out all the XPath, all the different combinations, and whichever is feasible, you can just choose that XPath and you can use it. And also we can test our own XPath here. Okay, so this is another extension of the CrowPath extension. So you can use both. Right, so these are the plugins are available, or extensions are available for Chrome as well as Edge and Firefox browsers. And by using these extensions, we can capture XPath. So not only XPath, we can also capture other locators like CSS selectors, links, and tags and everything. And we are also going to use this extension very frequently while working with the locators. Okay, so this is how we need to capture the XPaths in different ways. And after that, we have discussed about 2 XPaths, right? So far, Absolute Xpath and Relative Xpath. So in Absolute Xpath, we have to write the complete all the tags. So throughout the navigation, it will go through and find the element. In the Relative XPath, we have to just specify the attribute, and then it will directly jump to that element and it will find the element, right? So among these 2 XPaths, so in interview, people will ask you one question. So which XPath will be preferred? Okay, there are 2 options are available, Absolute XPath and Relative XPath. But which XPath will be preferred to locate element and why? So if I say Relative XPath, why we have to prefer Relative XPath? When I say Absolute XPath, why you have to prefer to Absolute XPath? So this is another important interview question, guys, on XPath. So which XPath will be preferred and why? So most of the times, guys, we use Relative XPath. We use Relative XPath most of the times. We don't use Absolute XPath. So when I say Relative XPath, why we have to use Relative XPath? This is another important intake question. Immediately you will get another question. Why we need to use relative XPath? Why can't we use absolute XPath? So there are multiple reasons we have, guys, but most of the people will say simple answer like absolute. Right. So now we are discussing about which XPath is preferred and why. So we have seen relative XPath as well as absolute XPath, and why we have to, which XPath we have to prefer and why. So always we have to prefer relative XPath, guys. Okay. So why we have to prefer relative XPath? So most of the people will say relative XPath is very smaller and absolute XPath is very lengthy. So if I use absolute XPath in our script will looks ugly, and so that's the reason we go for relative XPath. So that is not exactly right answer, guys. So there is a technical reason behind that. So why we have to use exactly relative XPath? Why not we go for absolute XPath? So to understand this, let me tell you something. So if I just look at here, this is my absolute XPath, right? And this is my relative XPath. Let me copy this. Okay, this is my relative XPath. So when I use this absolute XPath in our script, so the problem with this absolute XPath is there are two problems, guys. Okay, there are two problems with the absolute XPath or full XPath. So the first problem with this is, suppose in this absolute XPath, every node, right? Every tag is representing one node, right? So for example, the hierarchy will be like this. Let me just draw some small picture. So this is one node and this is another node, and say this is another node. So this is a relation, guys. Okay, these are the different nodes. So this is a root node. Inside this one more node. Inside this there are two nodes. So let us say I have some element here. So this is my element I want to locate. So to locate this element, we have to write absolute XPath from here. So root node, then child node, again one more node, and here. Finally we reach it here. So how many tags you have to specify? 1, 2, 3, 4. So when I write XPath, absolute XPath for this particular element, right? When I use like this, suppose tomorrow there are some changes happen. So for example, so the developer is removed some node here, removed some element from the web page. Okay, then what happens? The connection is lost here. So as soon as this element is removed, this connection is got lost. So your XPath cannot locate this element, because there are some chances are there, because here we have to specify the lengthy node or lengthy tags. So somewhere if there is some problem, let's say some node is removed from that page, then definitely the XPath will broken, and then that XPath cannot locate the element. So this is the one problem you have. And other problem is, suppose the element is moved to somewhere else on the web page. So previously the element is present here, but the same node or same element is present somewhere. They have removed from here or placed that element in some other place. Then what happens? Again, the XPath is broken. So because of these two reasons, the absolute XPath will always affected. So that's the reason we don't always prefer to use absolute XPath. Because somewhere, suppose if the element is removed or the element location is moved to somewhere else, in both the cases there is a problem. So in that case, our absolute XPath will be broken somewhere in the middle, then your XPath may not be able to locate the element. So these changes are commonly happen in the real-time projects, because every day you will get the new builds and new elements will be added or existing elements will be removed. Sometimes the new element will be introduced here. Sometimes new element will be introduced here. Then again XPath will be broken. So if there are any new elements are added on the page, or if there are existing elements which are removed from the page, or the location of the element is got changed. So in all these cases, your XPath will be broken. So in that case, your XPath cannot locate your element exactly. So that's the reason we don't always prefer to use absolute XPath. We always go with relative XPath. So when I use relative XPath, we don't have such problem, because we specify certain attribute along with the slash slash. Slash slash means it is representing the entire DOM structure, and wherever this attribute is present, that will directly jump to that element and will find that element. So even though the new element is introduced or element location is got changed, no problem at all. So this XPath will always works. So this is the main technical reason why we have to prefer the relative XPath instead of absolute XPath. Okay. So sometimes Absolute Xpath also very smaller than Relative Xpath, but still always we prefer to use Relative Xpath because of this reason. So in Absolute Xpath, when I use, these are the problem. If the element is in new elements are introduced or existing elements are moved to some other place or remove the elements, then Absolute Xpath will broken and it may not work for us. So in that case, we can just go for Relative Xpath. Okay, so this is the answer for this question, guys. So what is the XPath you will prefer and why? Always we prefer to use Relative XPath. Why? Because in Absolute XPath, there is a problem when you are moving the element or when introducing new elements on the web page, there is a problem. So there may be chances to break the XPath. So it may not be able to locate the element always. So that is the reason we always prefer to use Relative XPath. It is not related to size of the XPath, guys. It is a technical reason behind that. Okay, and the problem with the Absolute XPath is two problems. One is while adding a new element on the web page, then what happens, the XPath will be changed, and if I remove the element from the web page also, the XPath will be corrupted. In both the cases, our XPath may not able to locate the element. Okay, so that is the reason we always prefer to use Relative XPath rather than using Absolute XPath, guys. Okay, so that is the one thing. So this is a very basic understanding, basic usage of XPath. We have discussed so far what is an XPath, what are the different types of XPath, and what is the difference between Absolute Relative XPath, and how to write our own XPath, and then how to capture the XPath in the different ways. So now I will show you XPath, different options in XPath, and we also I am also trying to show you practically how we can use XPath options. So in XPath, this is a very basic XPath which I have written, guys, and apart from this we can also add some more options in the XPath. Okay, now I'll show you what are the different options are available and we can use them along with the XPath. So these are the XPath options. So we can use the different operators like or, and, contains, start with the text, change XPath. So these are the different options we can use along with the XPath. So now let us see practically how we can use this XPath in our script. Okay, so let me just go to Eclipse. Now let me open my Eclipse, and here yesterday we have created Locators package, and inside itself I'm just creating a new class. I'll say Locators demo 5, demo 4. Yesterday we have seen 3 examples, and Locators demo 4, this is related XPaths underscore XPaths I'm giving. And let's take main method and then finish. Okay, so now I'm going to show you different options which are used along with the XPath. Okay, so the first thing is, let me just show you a small application, and then we will try to use a different XPath. And before that, let me just specify something called system.setProperty. System.setProperty, and here we have to pass 2 arguments. I'm using Chrome browser. I'll say WebDriver. I'll say Chrome.driver, and the second argument will be the location of your Chrome driver. So I'm just copying my Chrome driver location and then semicolon. So this is a setting of the driver, and then we have to create a WebDriver object. Let's say WebDriver driver equal to new Chrome driver, and then we have to import the packages related to WebDriver and Chrome driver. So import WebDriver from org openq.selenium, and import Chrome driver from org openq.selenium.chrome. Okay, and then let me launch my browser. I'll say, okay, driver dot get is a method by which we can pass the URL, then it will open the application on the browser. So I'm opening this application for now, automationpractice.com/index.php. So this is sample application everybody can access, and I'm trying to open this application. I'm passing this URL as part of the get method. So this will launch our application. So if you want to maximize the page, we have another command called driver.manage.window.maximize. So this command will maximize the page. All right. So now, first of all, let us see how to use Absolute XPath. right? So Absolute Xpath. So on this web page, let me just try to, just a second. Okay. So on the web page, if I just look at this, and here we have a search box and we have a search button. Okay. So I want to pass some value here, and then I click on the search button, and this time I'm going to use XPath, and I'll show you both Absolute XPath as well as Relative XPath. Okay. So when you're inspecting this element, the first element, search box, and this is a HTML code which is highlighted, right? And if you just right click directly, and if you just go to the crow path, it will directly show you. So this is a Relative XPath, and if you just come down, it will also show you Absolute XPath. Okay, so you can just use this relative Absolute XPath for now. So I'm just using this Absolute XPath. Copy this, and here I'll say driver.find element by dot, and here we have to use XPath option. So by dot XPath, in the double quotations, we have to pass the XPath. So this is Absolute XPath. And once you pass, and this will locate the element. And once it is located, this element dot, and directly I can use send keys of, and here you can pass the value. I'll say t-shirts. This is a whole statement. And the first element. And now the search button I want to locate. So inspect this element, search element, submit search. And if we just come down on the crow path, you can see Absolute XPath. So we can just copy this, and here I'll say driver.find element by dot XPath. So for both Relative as well as Absolute XPath, we use same option, by dot XPath, and this is Absolute XPath again, and dot say click. So click is a method. So just one is a search box element and the other one is a search button element. So once you pass the value, then I'm clicking on the search button. So both the places I have used Absolute XPath, right? So let's try to execute this. Run as Java application. Okay, so now it is launched my browser, opening my application. Okay, so now I can see here on the search box, it is passed some value, and then click on the search button. So I got the search results here. So this is the way we can directly use Absolute XPath. And suppose I want to do the same thing by using Relative XPath. So let me just comment this. I'll say Relative XPath. So in case of Relative XPath, we can get it from here itself directly, or we can write our own XPath. So search button, and this is our Relative XPath. And I say driver.find element by dot XPath, and here the double quotations. And observe guys, so here this is XPath which is given in the single quotations. So input ID equal to, and here why we put in the single quotations, because so in Java, in the double quotations, inside the double quotations, another double quotations are not allowed. If you put this double quotations, so this value like this, which will give you an error. Okay. So the problem here is in Java, the double quotations are not allowed inside another double quotations. Okay. So that is a problem. So, but still, if you want to use a double quotations, what you have to do is we have to use some regular expression to avoid this. So here we can just put one slash, and also here you can put some more slash like this. Okay, and then error is gone. So this is a one way to handle this if you still have a double quotations. But if you don't have this, you can simply say single quotation directly. This is a preferable way, and you don't need to add any regular expression there. So by dot XPath, so this is my Relative XPath dot send keys, and here I can pass a value. I'll say t-shirts. This is the first element. Now after passing this, I want to click on the search submit button. Again, I want to use a Relative XPath, and this is a Relative XPath. You can just get it from the crow path, and here I'll say driver dot find element by dot XPath, and here you can pass XPath dot click. So this will also do the same thing. So instead of using Absolute XPath, this time we have used Relative XPath. So now let us try to execute this, run as Java application. Okay, so now we can see here it is pass the value, click on the submit button, then we got the search results. So this is a way we can use Absolute Xpath. Instead of Absolute Xpath, we can also use Relative Xpath. So these are the basic XPath, very basic. Just we have a tag name and we have one attribute we specified. So we can also use different options along with the XPaths. So what are those different options? We can use different operators like or, and, contains, and start with the text chained XPath. These are the different methods are available along with the XPath. And especially when you're treating with the dynamically changed elements. So sometimes the properties of the elements will be dynamically changed. So in those cases, we need to write a dynamic XPaths. So in that case, we use these particular methods. Let's contain, start with the text. So these are very, very useful methods which we can use along with the XPath, and especially the dynamic elements. So I will show you how we can use these operators one by one along with the XPaths. So the first thing we will see OR operator. How to use OR operator. Let's say XPath with OR operator. So what is an OR operator means? So sometimes in XPath, here we specify only one attribute and value. We can specify multiple attribute and values also. Sometimes we can specify multiple attributes or values also. Okay. So for example, observe this carefully. So I want to inspect this element. So a search element. Okay. And this is a XPath which is given. So let me just put that XPath here. Listen carefully, guys. So this is a XPath which is by default given by the group path. And if I just look at this HTML code, there are multiple attributes we have. So what are the attributes we have? So we have ID and we also have a name. But here by default, they have given ID only. So with this, we are able to locate the element. Okay. And apart from this, we can also specify some other attribute. So for example, let us say OR. So here I can say OR at the rate name. So ID already used. So this time I'm passing name equal to, in the single quotations, what's the name value here is search underscore query. So here I'll say search underscore query. So when I press enter, this will also able to locate the element. So what extra we have to write in this is, let me just clarify this. So here, this is my first attribute and this is my second attribute and value, and in between I'm using OR operator. So how this OR operator works? Okay, so for example, when I say OR operator, either the first attribute should be there or the second attribute should be there. If one of them is matching, then this will able to locate the element. Okay, so suppose he say ID equal to search query top. So here ID is exactly matching with the same value. So you can see ID is exactly matching with the search query top. And name is equal to search query. So here name is also search query. So both are matching. So anyway, it will locate the element. Suppose here and say search query 1. I have given some different value. So now what happens? The first one is matching, but the second one is not matching. So then what happens? Still it will go and locate the element. Because I'm saying or means either the first attribute or the second attribute. One of them should be matched. At least one should be matched. If both are not available, then it cannot locate the element. At least either second attribute or the first attribute. One of them should be exist in this particular HTML, either ID or name. Whatever attribute we mentioned here, either this one should match or the second one should match. Even one of them is matching, then the whole XPath will able to locate the element. But when it cannot locate the element, if both the attributes are not matching, then it cannot locate the element. Okay, so for example, let us assume this is A and this is B. Then by using the structure, we can understand like this. Okay, so we can say A, let us assume this is A and the second part is a B. If I use OR operator, okay, and then it will be like this. Suppose if both are false, means this one is not correct and this one is also not correct, then there is no element. That means this cannot locate the element. And the first one is a true, second one is false. Still it return the element. And the first one is false, second one is true, then it still return the element. and both are true also, it return the element. But when it cannot locate the element, if both are false, and then only it cannot locate the element, it will not return the element. In all the other cases, OR operator will return the element. So this is OR operator. So we can use two attributes by separating OR operator, and if one of them is true, then it will match. Now let us try to test this. So here in the first case, I'm passing both are correct, so it is locating the element. So now what happens is I'm changing the second attribute. I'll say 1. That is not correct, but still we will able to locate the element. One element is matching. So now I'm changing the first element, and this is not correct. Let me put single quote here. Okay, so now I'm changing the first attribute value, and this is not correct, but still second one is correct. It will able to locate the element. But when it will not locate the element, so first one and second one is both are wrong. And now when I press enter, 0 element is matching, because the first attribute is incorrect and second value is also incorrect. So then OR operator will never return any value. So 0 element is matching. At least one should be matching, either the first one attribute or second attribute. Then OR operator will locate the element. Okay, so this is how we can use OR operator. And similarly, AND operator. Suppose instead of OR operator, I'm using AND operator. AND. So what is AND means? AND means the first attribute and second attribute both should be matched, and then only the element will be returned. In all other cases, element not be returned. So for example, let's say ID is search query top and the name is search query. So both are correct. Then it will return the element. One element is matching. One element is matching. Suppose I'll make the first one is false, then 0 element, because among these two attributes, one is not matching. This is false, the second one is true. And the first one is true, but the second one I say false. Then still it is not able to locate the element. And when I say both are false, then it is not able to locate the element. So what we have to understand here is, when I use AND operator, both attributes should be matched, and then only it will locate the element. Even one element is not, one attribute is not matching, then it cannot locate the element. It cannot return the element. So that is all about AND operator. So OR means this one, and AND means both should be matched. Okay, AND means both should be matched. So if I just look at the table, it will be like this. So if both are false, there is no element. And one is true, another is false, still no element. Okay, so we can just do like this. And false and true, no element. Both are true, then only it will return the element. Okay, so this is like AND OR operators case. Even in the programming also we can say AND OR operator. So similarly here also. And in case of OR means either one of them should be true, then it will return the element. At least one should be true. If both are false, then no element. In case of AND operator, so here it's AND operator. AND operator, both should be true. So only in this case it will return the element. In all other cases, there is no element. Okay, so this is all about AND OR. Okay, now let's see a practical example. So XPath with OR operator. So XPath with OR operator. So now I'm going to I'm trying to locate the same elements. This time I'm going to use OR operator. Okay, so let me just use this XPath for the search box. How to use this: driver.find element by.xpath, and here in the double quotations I'll put this. So this time I'm using OR operator, guys. OR means at least one should be true. Okay, so now both are true, so this one as well as this one is true. And dot send keys. So this is a whole XPath, and dot send keys, and here I can pass a value. That's it. So this will able to locate the element. Why? Because we have used OR operator. Either this one or this one should be matched. Both are matching, no problem, but at least one should be matched with that attribute. Then it will go and locate the element. Okay, and similarly we can also write other one. So for the text box search button, and this is the button search. Okay, so for this also we can write OR operator. So what are the attributes we have for this? We have a name attribute, and also we have a something called class is also available. Right, so class is also available. We can use the class and the name. So by default name is given. So here I'll say or @class equal to the single quotation. What is the class here? btn. Let's copy the exactly same thing and put it here. So press enter. This will able to locate a one element. So because we say or means either this one or this one should be true. So now I'll make the first one is false by adding one. Still it is able to locate the element. And then I'll make the second one is false, and then still it is able to locate the element. Now I'll make both are false and then zero element. Okay, so this is how OR operator works. So I'll just make the first one is correct or second one is also correct. So when I copy this XPath, you can just try to use like this. Say driver dot find element by dot XPath, specify the XPath, right? And dot click. So this is a submit button, so I can just say click. So OR operator means either at least one should be matched. Okay, so here both are matching. So I'll make the first one is false, second one is false. Still it will locate the element. Or you can say simply say some X. Okay, and this is invalid, but still the first one is correct. So it will able to locate the element. And in the second one, I'll make the first one is false, but second one is matching. So it will able to locate the element. In both the cases, it will locate the element. Now when I run this code, this will able to do the job. Okay, now it is launched my browser, opening the URL. All right, so now we can see here, it should enter the value in the search box. Okay, so now we can see it is enter some value and then click on the search button. Now we got the search results. So this is how we can use OR operator, guys. Okay, so either this one or this one of them should be matched, then it will go and locate the element. So in the first statement, I make it second one is false. In the second statement, I make it first one is false. In both the cases, it is going to match that element. And we also have XPath with AND operator, XPath with AND operator. Okay, so I'll say XPath with AND operator. So now we'll see both by using AND operator. AND means both should be matched, then only it will locate the element, or else no. Okay, now again go back to the search button, search box, and this is the XPath which is generated. Let us copy this. Okay, now it is able to locate the element. So I'm using AND operator, and @name. So name also I'm going to use. So what is the name here for that element? Search underscore query. So I'm saying search underscore query. So now this will able to locate element. Even one of them is not matching, it will not able to locate the element. So now I'll make it the first one is false. Then you see zero element. So I'll make a second one is false. Then zero element. So both should be matched. Then only it will able to locate the element. So now I'm going to use this to locate the search box. So here I'll say driver.find element by dot XPath, and I say XPath and dot send keys, and here I can pass the value. So here I can say t-shirts. Okay, so this is how we can use AND operator. Either ID or name can be used. And similarly, I'll also try to get the submit button. So this is XPath which is given. So I'm also adding AND operator. So this button search will able to match that element. If you want to add another attribute, you can say AND, both should be matched. So what is another attribute we have for this? Class is available. So @class equal to, here I'll say class name. So this is my class, then I can pass it here. Okay, and then this is AND operator, so both should be matched, then only it will able to locate the element. Now copy this, and here I'll say driver dot find element by dot XPath, and here I can pass XPath dot click. So this way we can also use AND operator. AND means both should be matched. Okay, and then only it will return the element, or else no. So now let us try this. Run as Java application. Okay, now we can see it is enter t-shirts and click on the submit button, then we got the search results. Okay, so this is how we can use AND OR operators along with the XPath. Okay, so apart from this, we also have few more like contains method and start with method text. Now we'll see how we can use these functions. We can say them as functions or methods along with the XPath, which is very, very useful, guys. So now I'll show you how to use contains, and very, very useful and very important function which we have to use along with the XPath, especially while element attributes are dynamically changes. Okay, so now, and one more important thing, guys, here or and, right? So these are all case sensitive. Okay, so we have to use exactly in the lowercase letters. We should not put uppercase characters. Okay, these are case sensitive. All right. So now let us see how to use contains method, XPath with contains method. So let me show you the syntax, how to use contains along with the XPath. So the syntax is, first of all, let's say // here I'll say tag name in the bracket. Here we use contains function. Inside the contains function, here we'll specify attribute, any attribute. Okay, and comma the value of the attribute. Here this is a syntax which we have to use when I use contains method. So // tag name. So this is again XPath itself, but in along with the XPath we also use contains method. So // tag name contains, and this is a whole function. It is taking two arguments. The first argument is attribute and the second attribute value. So what exactly contains method will do is, suppose if this attribute is having some value, okay, so every attribute is having some value. Okay, so for example, let us say I have something called ID. Okay, so ID is the first name, so ID is my first name. So if I want to locate this element by using ID, normally how we will write an XPath, we will write XPath like this. If it is a normal basic XPath, I can say tag name is, say input is my tag name. In the bracket, I'll say @ ID equal to, in the single quotation, directly I can specify the first name. So this is a normal XPath which we can write to locate this element. So here we directly specifying the attribute and value. So the attribute value should be the same, then only this XPath will work, right? So for example, let us say I don't want to pass a complete value like this. I just want to specify some value, right? And then what I can do is we can use contains method. I'll say the same thing like this: input in the bracket, I say contains @ID, comma, and here you don't need to pass the complete value. You can just pass some portion of the value. And then what happens is, in this example, so what contains method will do is, the contains method will check the ID contains this one or not. ID contains the first or not. If the ID contains the first, then it will go and match that element. And you can also use something called name also. So I say first, or else says name. So it should be part of the actual value. Okay. So in that case, we use this contains method, guys. So contains is a method which will verify the attribute value is a part of the actual value. Then it will go and locate the element. So that is all about contains method. Okay, which will be very, very useful when you're having dynamic element, guys. So let me just give you a small scenario where exactly which will be very useful for us. So this is a basic XPath. So this is a basic XPath, and this is using contains. Okay. Now I'll show you where exactly we use this particular XPath. Okay. So for example, let us say I have a small button. Let me just give you a simple example like this. So I have a small button. Let's say it is a stopwatch, and my button, the text is, I'll say start. Okay. And when I click on this button, it will give some numbers, increment some numbers, and this button, same button is turned into stop. So I have only a single button, and the ID of the button is start here. Okay, the ID of the button is start, and as soon as I click on the button, it will turn into stop. Again, if I click on the stop, again it will turn into stop. So like this, same button, it is interchanging like this. And when the button is on start stage, the ID is a start. The button is turned into stop, the ID is a stop. Okay. So, but there is a single button which is available, and the ID of the button will be changing dynamically. It depends upon the state. So initially ID is a start, then it is again becoming stop, again it is becoming start. So the same button is interchanging while pressing the button. So I want to write a locator XPath which will able to match this element in both the cases. Okay. So now observe this carefully. So when I write a locator like this is normal locator. Okay. So slash, let us assume tag name is input, and here @ID equal to when I say start. So when I write XPath like this, which will able to match only the first case. If the button ID is start, then only it will match, but this will fail in case of second case. If the button status is turned into stop, then this will fail. And suppose if I write like this, and here if I just say instead of start, when I say stop like this, now what happens? This will work only if the state is stop, and once it is turned into start, this will also will fail. So instead of writing these two XPaths, I can just write one XPath which will able to locate the element in both the states. Okay, so then how we can write an XPath? So in that case, I can write an XPath like this, / input, right? Here I can use contains method, contains, and here we have to find something common which is there in both the properties. So ID, so what is a common in both? So here it is a start, here it is a stop. So first two characters are common, right? And that I can specify here. I'll say ST. So now what happens? This XPath will able to match in both the cases. Even if it is a start button, this will able to match. Even it is turned into stop, then still it is able to match. So this is called as a dynamic XPath. So this is a dynamic XPath. So at the runtime, the properties of the attributes will be dynamically changing at runtime. In those cases, if you still want to locate the elements, we should able to write the dynamic XPath. And especially while writing the dynamic XPath, we use contains method. So there is one more method, start with. So you can also use that particular method, because in both the ways, both are starting with the same. So instead of using contains, you can also use start with method. Start with is also method, because ID is always starting with ST. So here it is starting with ST, here also it is starting with ST. Okay, so you can also use start with method. But what is the difference between contains and start with? Contains method will check this one is present in the whole value. So ST will be there in the beginning or in the middle or the end, wherever it is, doesn't matter. But in case of start with, the value should exactly start with ST. Okay, it should not be there in other places. So that is the basic difference between contains and a start with. So you can use these two functions very frequently to handle the dynamic elements. So those properties are dynamically changing. So contains method, and we have a start with, and very useful methods which we are going to use along with the XPath, guys. Okay, so now we will see practical examples how we can use these functions along with the example. So this is exact scenario where we can understand, we can use, where we can exactly use contains and start with. All right, so now let me just try to use them practically. Let's go to Eclipse. And now this time we are going to use contains and start with functions. So XPath with contains. Okay, so XPath with the contains. So we already seen the syntax, how to use contains. So this is a syntax. Input is my tag name of the element. Contains, so attribute and the value. So the value, we don't need to pass a complete value. We can just pass some portion of the value. This will able to locate the element. Okay, so now let's see how to use contains method along with the XPath. Okay, and for that again, I'm just taking the same example. So let's take a search button and submit button. Let us inspect the search button. And this is the XPath which is given. So let us try to write our own XPath now with contains method. Okay, so I'll say / input is my tag name, and here I'll use a contains. So how to use contains? I'll say contains in the bracket, and what is attribute you want to use here? You can use any attribute. You can use ID or you can use name, whatever. So here I'm saying, observe this carefully, contains at the rate, I'm using ID, right? So ID, comma, the second argument will be the value. So actually in ID is search underscore query underscore top, search underscore query underscore top. But here I'm just saying only search underscore query, search underscore query, that's it. So this will able to locate one element. Or you can also specify query underscore top. So instead of search underscore query, you can just specify query underscore top. So this will also able to locate the element. So one element is matching. Okay, so this is how we can use contains method. Let me just use this driver dot find element. Just a moment. So driver dot find element by dot XPath, specify that XPath dot send keys, and here I can pass the value like this. Okay, so here contains ID actual. What is the ID value here? Search underscore query underscore top. So actual value is this one, search underscore query underscore top. This is actual ID value, right? But what we have used here, just we have used query top, or you can use search underscore, whatever you want, you can use it. So now the second one, let's go to the second one, submit button. So for this we have a name is available, class is also available. So now what I'm doing is / input in the bracket at the rate, and this time I'm just taking a name attribute. I'll say name, comma, in the single quotations. Actually, what is the value of the name? Submit underscore search, but I'll say only submit. Only submit. So we have to say contains, right? Contains. So contains the name and then bracket. So now press enter. So it is saying 0 element, guys. So why it is saying 0 element? Input contains at the rate name. Input is my, sorry, the tag name is not input, guys. So tag name is button here. Okay, so the button is a tag name. I'll say button. Now press enter. Now you can see this will able to locate two element, guys, because somewhere some element is also having the name attribute which is having submit. So that's the reason it is saying two elements are matching. Other than this, there is one more element somewhere it is going to match. So what I can do is instead of submit, I can simply say search. Then it is able to match a single element. Okay, actual value is submit underscore search, but I'm just using search here. And now we can use this value to locate the element. I'll say driver dot find element by dot XPath, specify that XPath dot, this is a button. So I'll say click method dot, sorry, so two brackets and dot click. So this will actual value is this one. So actual name is this one. Submit underscore search is the actual value. Submit underscore search is the actual value. But what we have given, so search we have given in this contains. So which will able to match the element. So this is how we can use contains method means. So in the contains, we no need to pass a complete value of the attribute. We can just pass some portion of the value. Okay. So it is just similar to linked text and partial linked text. So similarly here also we can just pass the partial value. So when I run this as Java, then it will do the same thing. Now it is launching my browser, passing the URL. Okay, so now it is enter the value, click on the search button. Now we got the search results. All right, so this is how we can use contains method, guys. So along with this, we also have one more method called start with method. Now we'll see start with method. XPath with start with. But there is a small difference between contains and start with, as I discussed here. So when I say contains method, right? So this value, so this is a complete value. We can just pass some portion of the value, or we can say search or query or top, whatever you can pass, you can specify inside the contains. But when I use start with method, whatever value we are passing here, that should be the first value in the attribute value. So for example, here it is a search I have used, and it should be starting with the search actual. But here when I use start with instead of constraint, it will not work. Why? Because it is not starting with the search. The starting point is submit. Okay. Now let us try to use the same examples here. Instead of contains, I'm using starts with. Okay. And also here I'm using start with. Okay. Now observe. So will it work or not? So let's see the first example. In the first example, when I say start with, so what is the exact value of ID? Search query top. And it is starting with the search. But what I have mentioned here, query underscore top I mentioned. So this will not able to locate the element. So what we have to do is we have to specify the first one, search underscore query. Then it will able to match that element. So because ID is starting with search underscore query, so we have to specify search underscore query. Then only it will match the element. Now see the second element. So here actual value of the name is submit underscore search. But here I mentioned the search, that is the next element. So it is not starting with the search. So this will also will not work. It will not able to locate the element. So what we have to do is we have to use submit or submit underscore. Anything is fine. So in case of start with, we have to specify the submit. Now let us test this XPath whether it is working or not. So we can just paste over here plus enter. So now it is able to see this, it is matching with the two element, guys, again. So start with name equal to submit. When I say name equal to submit, it is matching with the two element because some other element is having name starting with the submit. So that's the reason two matching elements. So then what we have to do is there is underscore is also available. So after submit, you can just specify underscore also. Then one element is matching, right? So you can use this XPath now. So here you can use that XPath. So then it will able to, so again, exactly this name is starting with submit underscore. So submit underscore we specify. So this time start with function will work. So when I use start with, the value of the property or attribute should be the starting point of the exact value or the original value, and then only start with function works. Okay, so now let me execute this. Okay, now it is launching my page. Okay, now it is enter the value and press the submit the search results. So this is our search results. All right, so this is how we can use start with functions. So contains and start with functions. Then we also have one more function called text function. XPath with text function. So now I'll show you how we can work with the text function. And this is also very important one. So suppose we can use the text function to locate any kind of element which is having text equal to something. So let me just show you a simple example here. And suppose here I have something called, some links are available, women, dresses and t-shirts, right? So when I'm inspecting this element, let's say inspecting this element women, and what is it is showing? So this is anchor tag which contains some href and title and class. So if you just look at here, you don't see any ID or any class or any name attributes, right? So what exactly which is having, it is having some link text. Woman is a link text. So you can locate this element directly by using link text. You can use driver.find element of by.link text you can use, or partial link text is also fine. But you can also locate this element by using text methods. Okay, so let me show you how we can use a text method. So to locate this element, we can use a text method. Let me just go to the crow path again and take the relative XPath. So text method along with the XPath. Okay, so now say //a. So there are 153 elements are there. So exactly this element is tag is a, right? So when I say //a, which is matching with 153 elements. Now here, so I don't have any name attribute or I don't have any ID attribute, nothing here. So what I can do is I can get this element directly by using a text method. Okay, so how we can do this? So here I'll say text method, and which is equal to, and what is the text you are expecting? Woman. So I can just specify that WOMEN. Okay, then enter 0 element. It is giving 0 element. So why it is 0 element? A text. So A of text is a method and equal to, I think here something is, so in the lowercase letter is there. So you can see in the HTML we can find lowercase letter. So that we have to specify. That's the reason I said this is a case sensitive. So when I enter, then it is exactly matching with one element. So now you can see woman is located. Similarly, you can highlight other elements. Okay, so text method which we can use to check the equality, like whichever element we have in the web page, we can locate any other elements by using the text method. So we can use this one to locate this element. I'll say driver.find element, driver.find element by dot XPath, and here you can use text equal to woman, and dot you can say click. So because that is a link, so I'm just clicking on the link. So this is woman tab. So this will be able to locate the element by using text and click on the press the click, perform the click action on this element. Okay, now let us try this, run as Java application. Okay, so now it is launched my browser. Okay, now it should click on the women tab. So now it is clicked. So it is navigating to some other page. Okay, so this is how we can just locate the elements by using text method also. So these are very frequently used methods along with the XPath, guys. Okay, so far what are the methods we discussed? We have discussed or, end, contains, start with, and text. And we have something called chained XPath, guys. So chained XPath means we can write multiple XPath one after another. Sometimes even one XPath may not able to locate element, then we can chain another XPath. So I'll tell you what is exactly chained XPath means. Let me show you the one more example of chained XPath. So what is chained XPath? How it will be? How it look like? So here, let me just go to the page. So what is a chained XPath, guys? Suppose, let me just inspect this element, search button. Okay, search text box. So this is actual element, and let's look at this DOM. So input is this is exact element. This is HTML, which is representing the search box, and this is the input tag, right? So above this, there is one more input tag. This is another element. This is another element. This is another element. So all these elements are present in one single element, which is called form. Okay, form. So form is a parent element. Inside the form, there are multiple elements are present. If I just look at this HTML, you can clearly understand this. So form is a parent element. In this, we have a sub element. So these are all inputs elements like text box, like search button, logos, everything is present inside the form. So instead of directly searching this element, okay, what I will do is first I will directly go to the form, and from there I will search this element. So first I will write an XPath to locate this particular form parent. Okay, so for that what I'm going to do is / the tag name is a form, and here, and what are the attributes are available for form? ID is available. So here I'm just saying @ID, @ID, okay, equal to, so what is the ID value? Search underscore search box. So this is my ID of the form. So I'll say search box. So this is my form. When I enter this, see this, which will able to locate one element. So that is your form. So this XPath is reached till this particular form. So once it is located this form, inside this form, our search element, search box is present here, input tag. So then we can write followed by another XPath I can write // and here I can write input tag, and then which element you want to find out here? The fourth element. So you can just find input of 4, then which will able to match the element. So because in the fourth input tag you have an element, so this is the XPath you can write like this. So this is called as a chained XPath. You can write many ways, I will show you. Chained XPath. So in this what I have done, first I have located the parent element. From that there are multiple child elements are there. So 1, 2, 3, 4 inputs are there. Fourth input tag is representing my search box. So that's the reason I said input. Okay, this is one XPath which is representing the search box. Or instead of specifying index, you can also specify the attribute and value. So instead of 4, I'll say @ID, @ID equal to, so what is the ID of this tag, input tag? Search underscore query tab. So I'll say search underscore query underscore top. You can also specify this. So this will also able to locate the element. So you can pass the index here because there's a fourth element, or you can directly specify the attribute and value here. So this is also called as a chained XPath. XPath followed by another XPath. So first we reached here, from there we reached here, and this one both are correct to locate the search box, right? So similarly, suppose I want to locate the button. So even the button is also part of the form, I guess. Yeah, so button is also part of the form, is a child element of the form. So in the same XPath, what I can do is I can simply say, so instead of input, I can say button is my tag. Say enter, this will match one element because there is only one button tag here under form. So I no need to pass an index here. If I have a multiple button tags, then you can specify the number. So when I say 1, still it is matching with one element because there is only one button. So here one index is optional. So if I don't say 1, by default it will take 1. So this is chained XPath to locate the button. Or suppose if you want to specify the attribute of the button, you can still specify. So in the bracket, I can specify, let's say name equal to submit search. So I can use that attribute name equal to submit underscore search. Enter. So this will able to locate the element. So first we have reached the form. Inside this, a button attribute is there. So button is a child element of the form. And then we can specify the attribute value. So this is also right for locating the button. So these are called as a chained XPath. So XPath followed by another XPath. XPath is followed by another XPath. Okay. Now let us try to use it. So here driver.find element by .xpath, and here I'm taking this one to search box to locate the search box, and dot send keys, and here I can pass the value. So t-shirts, And similarly, second element, I'm using this chained XPath, and here I can say driver dot find element by dot XPath, and I say XPath chained XPath dot click. So here I can perform the click action. Okay, so this is how we can also write our chained XPath. Now let us try to execute as a Java application. So now it is launching my browser, launching my application. And then, yes, now it is enter the value in the box and click on the search button. So now we got the search results. Okay, so this is how we can use chained XPath, guys. So these are all the different options are available in the XPath. So there are so many functions are there like this, guys. Okay, so these are the very commonly used functions along with the XPath, and very useful, and especially while working with the elements, those properties are dynamically changing, so we use all these options. Okay, so this is all about XPath options. Okay, so in the next session I will discuss about XPath access. There are a few more options available along with XPath which are called as XPath access, so we will discuss them in the next session. Okay, so that's all for today's session. I'm stopping here.